Welcome back, Webheads, to the Webheads podcast, a Marvel comic event podcast where we're reading through every event starting in 1939, going forward, giving you the rundown of it all, the good, the bad, the ugly. Hosted by me, Steven, and the guy who lied to his high school yearbook, or probably paid somebody to make him best personality.
That was unanimously voted by the senior class, sir.
I doubt it. This
Do
is
not
my brother.
These false accusations into the world.
We need a recall. I want another vote because I can't believe that was true out of that whole high school. But this is my brother, the birthday boy today.
DeMarco, best personality.
Best person, only within his friend group, I'm sure.
I was friends with everybody. They all voted for me.
Let's go.
Hello, hello, hello.
Oh, man. So, today's your birthday.
Today's my birthday.
Your actual birth. In real time, this is your actual birthday.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm 28 today.
Yeah. I always forget that we're all not like
Kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to remind myself constantly that I'm not a kid anymore.
I keep forgetting that Chantel's like 2 years behind me. In my head, Chantel's always 14.
Yeah, there's like a certain there's like a certain age that I always think people are just based off of like where I think
That happens to me with like everybody. It must just be something that happens when you get older.
Yeah.
But it happened when I see Vanessa. I still see like 12-year-old Vanessa.
Yeah.
Or like 8-year-old Vanessa when I was over there all the time. And same with Janae. It's weird.
Yeah, growing up is just weird. I feel like them saying you're going to feel like an adult or you're an adult.
Mm-hmm.
If this is how I feel now where I don't feel like an adult, like mom and dad must not feel like adults either.
No.
Like, you must never really feel like an adult.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing is like, no one really knows what an adult feels like.
No, because it's just
'Cause
something
it's
we
just
just make
like-
up.
yeah.
Say.
Oh, I feel like an adult now. Like I bought a car and then I bought Pokemon cards the next day.
Am I an adult and then I revert back to a kid? Like, what's the criteria here?
Like, how do I know that I'm really an adult at this point? Like, I go to work every day, but like for legal purposes, this is not true. But I've spent hours of my day watching YouTube videos at previous jobs. So, like, am I an adult who just wants to watch YouTube videos?
Yeah.
Or did I revert back to my childhood?
There's no
one knows.
one knows.
And it doesn't honestly matter.
It really doesn't.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, if you want to collect Pokemon cards and then go to your high-paying job, do it.
Do it.
It's your life.
Yeah. As long as you're taking care of yourself, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But do you have any plans for today?
Well, I'm hanging out with you.
Yeah.
We're doing the show. We're also celebrating our birthdays together like we used to as kids.
I didn't know that. I thought that I was planning for this to be a day for just you.
Oh, I thought this was for both of us.
But whatever. It works for me. It wouldn't be the first time we did it.
Yeah, we got everybody coming over to our grandma's house who is not here. She decided to go to Hawaii again.
Yeah. We're barbecuing, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah, we're barbecuing today for what I thought was just DeMarco's birthday. But I guess we're celebrating both. I know he didn't like doing this growing up, so I tried to step away from doing anything like this. But I guess...
I mean, that was my impression. If anyone else wants to just
follow
it.
I'm just going to sit back and not say anything. And because I don't want to be like, oh, yeah, this is for both of us. And then a cake comes out and it just says, happy birthday, DeMarco. Because then I'm going to be pissed. You guys told me this was for me, too. What the hell is this? Why does it only have his name on there? I'm adult fit. I'm gonna put my fist through the middle of the cake. Slowly too. I'm not even gonna punch it. Just gonna slowly put it in there. Screw you guys. And it's just gonna sit in the car until everybody's ready to go. Lock it up. Go water the flowers. Man. Yeah, I didn't know that. But happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
28's a big number. One step closer to 30.
Hey, I don't mind.
Yeah.
It's better than the opposite, right? I could be getting
Yeah,
older.
you could
or
be
I could
one
just,
step closer to 25.
Or I could just be dead.
Yeah, that too. I guess that's how ages work.
You either get older or you don't.
You're either one step closer to dying or one step closer to another day.
Yep.
Yeah, get that tattooed on you.
That's a long ass tattoo.
I can write a paragraph for you if you need it.
Maybe I should get a tattoo. I want to get one. I just don't know. I'm very indecisive, so it takes a long time for me to decide what I want.
Yeah.
And by the time I do decide what I want, it takes me so long to actually pull the trigger and get it done that I don't want it anymore.
Yeah. And if you guys can't see this obviously, but DeMarco keeps looking out the window as if somebody's creeping around the house.
Well, just like, okay, so the house is on the corner. So whenever I see people turn the corner or like do a U-turn here, I always suspect that they're going to park in front of the house. Mm-hmm. So I'm always like, who is this? And it was a Tesla. I was like, we don't know anybody with a Tesla.
I don't know anybody with a Tessie, baby. Who is this?
Oh, a Tessie.
Who got the Tessie around here? I don't know that person.
But we are in an area where it's very common people have Teslas.
Yeah. There's like 5 or 6 down the street.
But yeah, let's get into this. This is our
Eternals Special.
Eternals.
Like what we did with the Shang-Chi episode. Mm-hmm. We both picked 2 runs of a Eternals book, and then we read that, and we're going to discuss it with you guys and try to give at least some sort of step, I guess, or information on who the Eternals are and all that, just to kind of prepare you guys for the movie that's coming out, because like you said, this is coming out on the day the movie comes out.
No, it's coming out on Tuesday, so it'll be 3 days before the movie.
Okay, so enough time for you guys to listen and kind of be prepared.
We felt like that was part of the reason we moved from Fridays to Tuesdays, because we felt like if we put out more episodes like these, the specials, they're gonna come out on the days that these movies come out, and then I'm supposed to be seeing the movie in like an hour, and I just saw that the podcast is out. So like, what do? So Tuesdays came up
because people look to us as their number one guide to comics.
We're the number one source for Marvel comics across the internet. Everybody knows that.
IGN, Wikipedia,
they all
Screw
source
that stuff.
They all source us.
I need to listen to these guys talk about it.
You hear those 2 guys talking about comic books from the 30s? They know what they're talking about. So, everybody knows that's us. And, that's just, it is what it is. It works for the TV shows, too, because the TV shows come out on Wednesdays now.
Yeah.
So, eventually, we are going to have a Hawkeye special for the show. We might invite our sister on for the Miss Marvel show. She's a big fan of that.
Did not know that.
Yeah. I just, I was thinking about what we could do to maybe bring some guests on every once in a while. And she told me before we started this whole thing, whenever you guys get to something with Miss Marvel in it, the Kamala Khan version, let me know, because I want to talk about it. I was like, well, you actually have to talk. So if you're okay doing that, then we can go. She said, okay. But that probably won't come around till like next year.
Yeah. Early next year, maybe.
Yeah. Before we get started, I want to take a little bit of a break. Real quick. All right. So after that little break, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So I only read, I guess, the emergent story of the Eternals, because I felt like that would give us the most information. I was wrong, but like we said last week, there's not tons of information about, like, you can find wikis about it,
Yeah.
about the Eternals, but like they're kind of like they weren't given any kind of love.
Yeah, like I don't feel like they've ever really been sort of like rebooted for like the times, whatever era they're in, or like that they like Spider-Man or the X-Men, like their stories may have happened in the 60s, 70s, but they'll kind of talk about them now, or like take what happened then and still kind of incorporates the characters now. Like, I don't feel like the Eternals have really been used very much, so they don't really take the time to, I guess, flesh out the characters too much, or like give them anything.
It's like each run only lasts for like maybe 15, 20 issues.
Yeah.
If they're lucky. And then they're like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Like you said, in a couple of them, or one of them, they're like, it just ends.
Yeah.
And then they start it back up like a few years later. It's weird how much love they don't get.
Yeah.
And like I said before, like I didn't know anything about them until a few years ago when they announced the movie.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I don't know who the hell that is. And the characters that I want them to bring into the MCU, they're not. At least not yet. I haven't seen anything about it. But I was like, I don't know anything about the Eternals. Let me try to find something.
Yeah.
And even when I tried to look it up, it was like, you get, of course, after they announced it, you get all those articles like, who are the Eternals? Read this story, or this is them. And so I don't know if you know like how they started, stuff like that. But like the basis of like who the Eternals are is kind of like a big point in the MCU, or not the MCU, but just like in Marvel comics.
Yeah, like how they are created and who they are.
Yeah.
The purpose for what they're here for is essential for literally everything that's happened.
It's like almost like nothing else comes if this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say a joke, right?
ew, you're nasty.
But yeah, like the Eternals are literally the starting point for Marvel, the 616 universe.
Yeah.
And just literally Marvel in general.
Yeah.
For the most part. I mean, some of the more cosmic characters would be there no matter what. But like for Earth history in the 616 universe, the Eternals are like starting point.
So, I guess just to jump into it.
Well, kind of just echoing in my head. Like, so people who, before we jump into it, the Eternals are, how would you describe?
So I kind of get into it in my run through of that first series that they had. But basically, the gods came down and created...
Celestials.
The Celestials came down and created three beings. Humans, a race called the Deviants, and the Eternals. So the humans, obviously, we all know what those are. The Deviants were kind of like a misshapen... monstrous kind of race that lives under the earth. But they've tried to come out numerous times, causing the humans to come up with the idea of the devil, because they saw some deviants come up, leading them to believe that that's the only thing that it could be, was the devil. And then we have the Eternals, who are basically immortal, can't die. This story, they live on Earth amongst the people and just kind of do it, just kind of live.
Yeah.
They made home up high above the mountains. Kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Setting up the idea of almost kind of like Greek mythology.
Like the precursor, or kind of gave the idea, yeah.
Yeah. So in humans' eyes, these were kind of like Greek gods.
Yeah.
Like unfathomable that they could even be real in the first place. So that's basically what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all three of those beings were created at the same time by the Celestials, and that's those three beings are basically where everything started. Throughout the years, there's so many Eternals.
So many.
Neither one of our stories are going to touch on even half of
No. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's so many of them, but
Yeah.
most of the stories just center on like the core group of them for the most part.
And I'm reading the very beginning of the Eternals, the first 5 issues that we're ever going to see of the Eternals, or that the world has ever seen.
Oh, nice. So you're reading the first 5 that we got, and I'm reading the latest 5
Yeah.
that we're getting.
Yeah. Like I said, we don't touch on all of the characters that are going to be in the movie, because if we were to do that, this podcast would be at least 3 or 4 parts, probably more, because it's just so much. So, jumping into it, all of these beginning comics were edited, written, and drawn by Jack Kirby. So he did all 3 of those.
So it's like a passion project, kind of, or like they
Yeah.
just gave him like free reign.
So what happened was he left Marvel in 1970. He went straight to DC, and he created a comic over there called The New Gods. Sorry, I know some people don't want to hear DC stuff, but
Someone just turn the podcast off right now.
yeah. Come on, DC.
Gross.
That's disgusting. So he left Marvel in 70, went to DC. He was there for 6 years. While he was there, he created a comic called The New Gods, which is kind of not the same thing, but it was based around the same kind of thing. These gods from space. It's a whole cosmic kind of story.
Yeah.
Not the same thing, but kind of in the same family. That doesn't last too long over there. I think he got maybe 15 issues out of it before they canceled it. And then in 1976, he goes back to Marvel. And then they let him start his own story there. And then that's where we get the Eternal. Because he was like, let's try it again.
This should work now.
Yeah. That's a different crowd over there.
I got it. I knew what I did wrong. Here.
And then, unfortunately, it didn't work over at Marvel either because he only got 19 out of it. So, so now we're in 1976. First page, first words we see. There's a nice little speech at the top, and I'm gonna read it for you guys. And it goes like this: prepare for trouble and make it double.
That's not the speech.
I was gonna see how far I could get with it, but that's for our spin-off podcast. So it says, is man alone in the universe? Every myth and legend to emerge from distant past points to a strange visitation from the stars. Beings of great power have been on this earth and then departed. Who were they? What did they do here? Where have they gone? These awesome questions create the background for this exciting new saga of a day which lies ahead. The day of answers. The day of gods. So Jack Kirby was really just punching it in there. That was the first page, and then we just get right into it. You guys ready?
Take us to this magical place.
All right, get in the car. Buckle up. So right off the bat, 3 people walk into this place called the Chamber of the Gods. We're not waiting for anything. We're getting right into the story. 3 people walk into this place called the Chamber of the Gods. They see this large thing in there. It's like carved in stone. And one of the guys says that it's called the Galaxy Plaque. And it basically just looks like a big go-kart made of rock. But yeah, okay. We'll call it a Galaxy Plaque. And then of the 3 people, there's an old man called Dr. Damien and this young lady. And they both kind of look like Jane and Tarzan, or Jane and her dad from Tarzan. And that's all I kept thinking about every time I saw them. So there's Dr. Damien, the old man. The young lady's name is Margot. And there's this buff blonde guy in a skater hat and hiking boots.
What's a skater hat?
Like, brim is...
Oh, kind of like swooshed up.
Like, yes. Like, yeah. They just fold it up, basically. Yeah, like that. So he has like a red skater hat on and hiking boots. And he's mad buff. He's hella buff. And his name is Ike Harris.
Ike. I-K-E.
I-K-E Harris.
Harris.
Yes. Ike Harris. And I hate getting notifications on my phone because I'm reading this stuff and then I see bad news. And the Broncos just lost. So perfect. I'm going to take this jersey off. So yeah, the buff blonde guy, his name is Ike Harris. And Blondie is intent on finding something in this cavern. He's there to help the other two on their mission, but he seems to be in that cavern looking for something like he's been there before, which doesn't make sense to anybody else that's there. And he says, but he does explain himself. He says what he's looking for will call to the gods and allow them to return to Earth at once. And then we cut immediately from that, and we see the Deviants. And like I said, Deviants are just these ugly-looking, deformed creatures. And we cut to them, and when they were created, they were kind of created almost like slaves for the Eternals. Like their whole purpose was to be like to do whatever the Eternals said to do. And yeah, so we cut to them, and they're basically they're doing the same thing. They're trying to get to the Chamber of the Gods where Ike and the other two are, to find the same thing that Ike is looking for. But they want to destroy it, because if the gods don't make it back here, then the Deviants feel like they can just be free and don't have to worry about punishment of any kind. So then we cut back to Ike and his friends, and Ike does find what he was looking for. It's basically a portal to the universe up above, the cosmic galaxy, and it's the home of the Celestials. It's basically like a big screen, but now they can see the galaxy. And then the girl, Margot, she's trying to figure out who the hell is this Ike guy.
That's been with her and her dad this whole time.
Because he shouldn't be able to open portals to cosmic galaxies like this. So who the hell is this? And then, if you haven't figured this out already, he says his actual name isn't Ike Harris. He says if you push Ike Harris together, it makes Icarus. Thanks, Jack. Real smooth there. So Ike Harris is actually Icarus, one of the Eternals. He says, yeah, if you push the two together, it makes Icarus. And in his words, I'm not exactly human. So she's looking at him like, oh yeah, I kind of guessed. And he states that it all began, like all of this galaxy stuff began when the gods, the Celestials, came to Earth, when there were only animals inhabiting it, and they wanted to create a new evolution of life, so they chose apes to start with. And in their trials of evolution, they ended up creating 3 new species, the Deviants, and their explanation of it was structurally unstable. Each new generation of Deviant came out uglier and uglier. Humans were just destined to inhabit Earth, and the Eternals looked at as the true children of the gods. Only a few were bred, and they're immune to time and death, immortal, basically. And they were supposed to be living away from all other living beings, which is why they were up in the mountains. But it doesn't last like that. So yeah, the Deviants were sent to live in Inner Earth, later working to develop weapons in attempts to move up in the ranks to basically beat the humans and the Eternals eventually. And the Eternals rose up to the mountaintops, and that's where they gained all their powers. And the humans just lived. Yeah. And so that's basically the basis for the 3 species. We cut back to Icarus. I'm going to call him Ike sometimes just because it works. But Icarus, Margot, and Dr. D start staring at the portal, and Ike sees a ship. He sees the ship of the gods, basically hightailing it straight to Earth. And they want to find the beacon that the Deviants and Ike are both searching for. They're all looking for it. When you're reading the comics, we, the reader, see that the Deviants are under the sea on their way to the same place. So they're on their way to the Chamber of the Gods. So we know that that's happening. Ike and his friends don't. The Deviants make it to the Chamber of the Gods first, before the gods do on their cosmic ship. The Deviants see that Icarus is already there, so they assume that he already found the beacon. They know who Icarus is. They've dealt with this guy plenty of times. So whether he's in a skater hat or not, they know, okay, we're in some shit now. And so they assume that he already found the beacon that they were already looking for. So the commander of the Deviants that's there, he tells his goons to just run in and start blasting, start shooting. Ike immediately sets up a force field around the three of them, him, Margot, and Dr. D, and he protects them. And then I didn't know this, but he can shoot lasers out of his eyes.
Yeah.
So he's knocking out Deviants left and right. But the the Deviants have the ultimate weapon, a weapon that I've never seen before in any story. They have a blanket gun.
What?
It's a gun that shoots out just a big ass blanket. So the commander of the Deviants, his name is Crow, Kro. He says they shoot him with he calls it a shroud gun, but it's basically just a big ass blanket. So he says use the shroud gun, shoot him with it, and it shoots out this big ass blanket, and it traps him under there. Like he can't get out from under the blanket on his own. So now, like, the Deviants are like, all right, yeah, cool, we got it. So in my notes, I put Dr. D. I meant to put Dr. D and Margot on this next part, and I wasn't paying attention, so it says Dr. D and Mario. So Dr. D and Margot try to hold them off with just regular pistols that I guess they had on them already. But a few seconds later, they hear this loud crack in the sky, and then we see the ship of the gods has finally arrived, and the gods' three passion projects, the Deviants, the humans, and the Eternals, are there basically just ready to meet their maker. They're like stunned. They have no idea what's going on. Margot and Dr. D actually get the blanket off of Ike, so he's okay now. And then as the celestial ship is landing, Crow, the commander of the Deviants, starts to rush towards the ship because he's like, I'm not going to wait for them to shoot me. I'm just going to go bring the fight to them. And then without hesitation, the ship shoots lightning at him, and then the building just starts to crumble around everybody. There's rocks falling everywhere. They're all trying to get out. People are getting hit with the rocks. The Deviants just take a run for it. But Icarus, Margot, and Dr. Damien are still stuck in the chamber. And then once the Deviants take off, the earthquake and the crumbling just stops. We don't get any explanation on what was going on there. It just stops. And then Ike finds another wall in the Chamber of Gods, and it's just full of symbols, like nothing that a normal person would be able to read. And he says it's a resurrection stone, and that it should bring back to life somebody named Tamakisin, who is the Lord of Flight, a man who was believed to have died 1,000 years ago. So he's saying that this resurrection stone can bring him back to life. And of course, Ike can read all of the symbols there, so he figures out how to get it to work, and it does. And we find out that Tamakisin is actually a different Eternal named Ajak. Ajak is the only one that knows how to speak to the Celestials, because even though the Eternals are technically looked at as children of the gods, like the true children, they can't really communicate with them. So Ajak is one of the only people who actually can communicate with them. But before he does that, he needs to send a communication. It's like some communication beam to the Celestials to let them know that it's like some weird thing. It's like sending a letter saying, hey, we need to talk. And then you have to wait till they respond back to actually talk to them.
It's like, I'm busy on Friday.
Yeah.
Can we reschedule for next Sunday? I have a meeting that day. Another group of Celestials are having a party. You hit me up a little too late. Oh, I'm changing my tires that day.
On a side note, I saw this TikTok, and it was just like this lady and this little girl, And the lady was like, "Oh, I'm having a party tomorrow." And then the little girl was like,
Oh, I'm sick tomorrow.
she's like, "You're sick right now?" And she was like,
No,
and she was like, "Okay, well, I'm having a party tomorrow." She's like,
but I'm going to be sick tomorrow.
So yeah, back to it. Ajax sends that communication up to the gods, but they don't care. They don't want to talk. They're busy tomorrow. They're sick tomorrow, so they can't do it. And then down comes this giant celestial named Erishim, and basically he's gonna stand on he's like a 50, 60 feet, whatever. And there's this podium outside of the Chamber of the Gods. And because people were trying to basically find stuff in the Chamber of Gods that shouldn't have been there in the first place. None of them should have been there in the first place. He's come down to basically protect it now. So he's going to stand on that podium for 50 years exactly, with the force field surrounding it just to protect it so nobody else gets in there. And then when that 50 years is up, he'll then decide if the humans deserve to still live or die at that point. If they're going to keep, I'm pretty sure if they're going to keep coming for 50 years trying to get in here, when this 50 years is up, you guys are all going to be dead. So, and yeah, in the meantime, he's setting up that force field around the area so nobody can leave or come in. Dr. Damien says he's been working his whole life to find this place. He's going to stay. Ajax can't do, they just brought him back from being dead. But he says that his place is there in the Chamber of the Gods, so he's not leaving. Ike says, well, I have to get out of here because I have a life to live. And then Dr. Damien says to Margot, you can't stay in here. This is my life's work. Even if I can't share the work with other people, this is what I've been working to see my whole life. So I'm going to stay. But you need to go because you're still young. You can still live your life. Go. She's fighting it, obviously. Ike's like, we don't have time for this. We can literally see the force field coming down. So he's like, come on. He basically picks her up like a sack of potatoes and just runs out from under the... It's like one of those last minute kind of things where it's the door shutting. Yeah. The door shut and you just got to slide under it. So they make it under the force field. So now Dr. Damien and Ajax are stuck in there. Ike commandeers some plane that's just been sitting there. And then flies to New York. While they're flying, the Deviants show up in their own ship and start attacking. They're like, we gotta get rid of this Ike guy. They know he can't die, but they're like, we gotta do something. That doesn't last long. Ike and Margot get away, and then they take the small little plane to space. I don't. It didn't.
Somebody's a broke ass not knowing planes can go to space.
I've never seen this plane go to space. Any plane I've ever been on just went straight to the city I planned. We didn't make a quick cosmic detour to space. So, and they didn't explain it either. They just one panel they're in the air, the next panel they're in space, and then the next panel after that they're just in New York City. So they must have hit some warp speed tunnel and just
transported them back to New York.
Yeah. It was weird. And mind you, I told you guys I was reading the first 5 issues of this. This is 4 issues in already. Nothing has happened except for...
You're only...
I'm 4 issues
This whole
in.
time I was like, okay, he's going to say that's the end of the first issue.
Nope. This is 4 issues in. I love Jack Kirby's work, but I'm surprised they gave him 19 issues of this. I'm very surprised. Because this is 4 issues in, and this is all that's happened.
And what they've introduced, 2 Eternals?
2 so far. In 4 issues. And I'm getting into the 5th issue right now. So, yeah, they make it to New York. Icarus says he knows of a safe place in New York City. And that's the only place that he feels comfortable leaving Margot because the Deviants followed him to New York. And he knows the Deviants have already made it clear that their plan is to just take everything over. So they're going to do whatever they can So Ike takes Margot to the place where he thinks it's the safest, and it's to the home of another Eternal, Cersei. So he takes her to her uptown apartment.
Uptown girl.
We're gonna get some copyright issues. I won't be able to put this one on YouTube. So he explains the whole thing to Cersei. Says like, we were at the chamber of the gods. We awoke the Celestials. Ajax and Margot's father are stuck over there for the next 50 years. Margot's father's probably gonna die in there. So I'm bringing her here as a safe space, but I also know that Margot needs somebody to basically just be nice to her. Like, she essentially just lost her father because he's an old man already. 50 years in there is not gonna, and he's not immortal. So Cersei's like, sure, of course, leave her here. She'll be completely safe. Nothing will happen. And then Ike goes out and he's like, now it's time to fight some Deviants. And then we cut to the commander of the Deviants, Crow. His whole thing is like, I'm going to make the humans think that like the devil has come to life. So he like transforms his head and he like gets like, he grows like these horns on his head, like these devil horns. And then he just basically flies up high in New York City. And he's like, I'm the devil incarnate. And then like half of the people are like, oh God, no, this is the end of the world. Like, please, no, like, somebody help us. And then there's like another group of like a smaller group of people who are like, I don't give a shit who that is.
Move it. I'm trying to get to work here.
Yo, come down here. Yo, I'll handle you myself. Get down here.
You in Brooklyn, son.
Yo, what do you think this is, Jersey? Yo, get down here.
Get out of here.
I was supposed to be at work 5 minutes ago. You over here, the devil. Get out of here.
I gotta drop the newspapers off. Come on.
So, like, yeah, there's just that small group who's just like, yo, get the fuck out
The
of here.
real New Yorkers.
Yeah. The other ones are probably like tourists. So, yeah, Crow's up there. He's like, this whole world is just going to turn into hell. And it's going to be my doing. And then him and that's when we see Ike or Icarus finally meet up with him. And it surprisingly doesn't go well for Icarus. He can't, like I've said before, he can't die. So nothing they do to him is really going to kill him. Mm-hmm. But they can slow him down. Oh, and I forgot that when the Deviants show up, like, yeah, Crow's in, like, he has the devil horns and everything. But they showed up in spacesuits. So, like, all of the Deviants are wearing, like, astronaut suits.
NASA approved spacesuits.
Like, the helmets and everything. And then people are still like, oh, it's the devil. Like, why is the devil wearing that spacesuit? That doesn't make any sense. And then Crow finally makes his announcement. He says that he's there to reclaim Earth for his own. And then Icarus tries to stop them. Doesn't work out. They have like some, I guess it's like almost like a cosmic ray gun or something. And it hits him like right in the forehead. But it latches something to his forehead that starts draining his power. And when it knocked him back, he was able to catch himself on the side of a building. But now he's just kind of hanging there. And he's losing power as it goes on. And then at the end of the issue, he falls. And then two of the Deviants go pick him up. They're like, all right, finally we got like some progress here. So they take him back to the ship, the Deviant ship. And then they just throw him at Crow's feet. Like, look what we got. And then that was the end of the issue.
Well, thank you for only reading 5, because I don't think I would have been able to read anymore.
Man, I'm telling you. So, obviously, like, we only saw 3 Eternals here.
Yeah.
But that's not what's going to be in the movie. So, of the 3 that we did see, or that we did read about here, we got Icarus. And then in the movie, he's being played by Richard Madden from Game of Thrones. We get Cersei, who's being played by Gemma Chan from Crazy Rich Asians. And I didn't realize this until I started reading into it, that she actually had a previous role in the MCU.
Yeah, and Captain Marvel.
Yeah, as Minerva. Mm-hmm. And then looking back on it, I saw a picture of her as Minerva, and that doesn't look anything like her.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, she was there. And then Ajax in the comics is a guy. And in the movie, they switched it up, and it's going to be played by Salma Hayek.
Yep.
So I understand that story didn't give much to anybody, but it at least introduced, like,
The concept.
yeah, it gave us basically what the Eternals are and where they came from. So that's the only silver lining that I had there. I'm probably still going to go back and read the rest of the run because it is only 19 issues and I have some time. So I might as well.
Got time today, cuz.
All right. But yeah, that was, I just like with Shang-Chi, we don't know if they're going to use any of that in the movie. I can imagine they're going to use at least parts of it. Maybe they're not the Deviants, but I can imagine they're going to use.
I think the Deviants actually are in it.
Oh, then perfect.
Yeah.
Then thank me later.
I don't think they're going to go to the I'm the devil in spacesuits route, but I think
My God, I would hope not. And I hope that still, I mean, the only thing that's scaring me is that the movie's like 2.5 hours long. It's longer than Endgame.
I'm ready for it though.
I am.
I'm interested to see why it's 2 hours.
Yeah. So what do you? Well, like you said in the beginning, I had the first 5 issues, and you have the latest 5.
Yes. So I'm reading the latest Eternals run. This started it sometime this year, 2021. I think earlier in the year, obviously.
So this is like a current, still going.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far on the app, there's only 5 issues, so perfect. But like I was telling you earlier, I thought this would be a good jumping off point for people who don't know the Eternals or want to get into it because of the movie.
Yeah.
I'm assuming this series was supposed to start a little bit after the movie was supposed to come out last year, but due to COVID, it got pushed back and everything. So I thought they were going to use this as their platform. I was wrong because the moment I start this book, it doesn't try to introduce anything. Like, there's no, the Eternals are this, besides, like, on the first page, they give you, like, before, like, on the first page, they'll put, like, description, or, like, a quick, like, rundown of who, or what's going on. Besides that, there's no, like, kind of seeing what's happening or anything. The last time I actually read anything with the Eternals was actually the latest Avengers run. When they restarted it, that started with a Celestial. So Celestials, the big gods from space. There was actually one the Eternals find out that their whole purpose on Earth is not what they thought it was. They initially thought they were there to be protectors of man and to be, the children of the Celestials and all that. They're actually there to make sure that humans are there to be sort of like cattle almost. And so the last time I see the Eternals, they literally off themselves because their whole life has just been for nothing. So they lose their minds. They either kill each other or they kill themselves. And that's the last time I had seen them.
I gotta check that out. A whole bunch of immortal beings just killed each other.
Yeah.
Or themselves.
And then, so this one, I'm not going to get into like every single detail of the book. But this series that I'm reading starts, it's basically just a murder mystery. So it starts off with Icarus. He is, like you mentioned, eternal. He has the powers of flight, super strength, laser vision, essentially Superman in a way. And we know that the Eternals are immortal. So basically, when they do die, or if they do die, they are just reborn. Same body, or that they can actually change their genders as well too. So if they die male, they want to come back as female, that's possible. Or as a different race, or visually a different race, they can do that as well too. And so it starts off with Icarus in I think what they call the exclusion. And essentially when a Eternal dies and they do something against the Eternal code, they get put in the exclusion. So essentially it's like, we don't want you anymore. It's like, you did something bad, we're going to bring you back, but you're kind of on watch. And so he is there to wake up Sprite. Sprite is another Eternal. It is...
Sprite's a soda.
She in this run, normally it's a male, but in this run it's a female. But essentially she is still a grown Eternal, just like the rest of them. But she is stuck in the body of a child. So she looks young and acts like a kid, but is essentially just a grown person in the body of an Eternal.
Okay, so I think in the trailer I saw like a...
Yeah, she is in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah. And she has the power of, like, she's like a trickster, almost like Loki, so she can kind of create illusions and all that. And Icarus is there to take her out of, like, you know, being reborn. But he's, in this series, he seems more, like, very serious, like, very stern, like, almost like a drone. Like, he just has, like, one purpose, and they refer to him as an arrow. I think the narration says that there's arrows and there's snakes. So he is an arrow, just straightforward, no jokes or anything like that. He only has one purpose.
So he is Superman.
Yeah. And so he releases Sprite from being asleep under the what's the name of the guy? He's told to by Zurus. And Zurus is sort of like, I would say, the lead Eternal. He can kind of tell people what to do, and like there's no kingdoms. Well, there are kind of like kingdoms, but there's no like, there's more tribes of it. So he's like the lead person. So he's like awaken Sprite and, you know, watch her, but we don't trust her because apparently Sprite died, but before she died, she also murdered a bunch of Eternals as well too. So they want to keep an eye on her before they do anything. And so he releases her, kind of keep an eye on her and everything. They transport to New York for somehow, because they have like these portals that transport them anywhere. The Eternals essentially live in dimensions in between Earth, but inside of Earth. So like they have a place in like the North Pole, but it's in between. It's like it lives in perpendicular space.
So it's kind of like they live in like an astral plane.
Kinda. It's still connected to Earth. Their whole like computer, like their hive mind, is literally the Earth. So like everything that they do is pretty much built inside the Earth. And so like they're in New York, Icarus and Sprite, and because she died, she still has all of her powers. She kind of has a memory of who she is, but she doesn't remember what she did before. And so you kind of get some memories back, but not all of them. And then we find out that Zurus, the guy that told Icarus to bring her back, has been killed. And then, so they find out that he's been killed, and they're just like, fine, whatever, like, we come back anyways. What does death really mean to us?
Yeah.
But then they find out the machine that brings them back has been destroyed. And they don't know who did it. So it becomes a murder mystery of like, okay, so...
This is a whodunit.
Yeah. And so we meet Druid, who is another Eternal. He's actually Icarus's cousin. And he's actually in the movie as well, too.
Okay.
He has the power of mind control. And he's when the narrator is talking about snakes and arrows, he's the snake. So he isn't someone so straightforward, and he kind of knows when to strike. So he can still kind of help you out and lead you on certain ways, but he'll help you out just until you get to that point where, okay, this is where I'm going to flip on you.
Yeah.
So they automatically assume it's him, trying to do a power grab, take this guy out, and then he becomes the leader. But he has a couple good points that he would still need the votes from the other Eternals.
To become the leader? Okay.
And he would, what purpose does he have to kill him? It's like, he doesn't want the power anyways. And then so they're just like, fine, you know, we kind of believe you, but kind of not. And then so it's Icarus, Sprite, Druid, and then I believe Cersei comes in as well too. And it just becomes a murder mystery. They end up kind of going after all these different Eternals, all the ones that are going to be in the movie. Yeah. So there's Cersei, there's Thena.
Yeah.
Thena is played by Angelina Jolie in the movie, but essentially she can create weapons out of nothing. But she doesn't really want to be with the Eternals anymore. She's kind of given up that that lifestyle being with them. She's actually fallen in love with Deviants before, and actually wants to be in their sort of.
Angelina Jolie with the Deviant.
Yeah, and so
It's disgusting.
they all kind of come together and try to figure it out. But we find out that the person murdering everybody is actually the one and only Mad Titan himself, Thanos.
I knew it.
And so essentially, they all split up. Icarus and Sprite go to like this pocket dimension. I think it's like the kind of like the time dimension. So everything happens at once there. You could be fighting for a couple seconds and it's literally a second, but it's also a million years. And so they have all these weird concepts. It's just hard to pin down, but Icarus and Thanos are fighting like nonstop. Like Icarus just wants to kill him, and Thanos is just going at him. But he's able to use these sort of like teleportation points that only the Eternals can use.
Okay.
And Thanos isn't an Eternal, so they're wondering if he can do this. There's someone on the inside helping him out. So it becomes a murder mystery, and who's helping him. And so they're trying to track down Thanos while also trying to figure out who is helping him. And then they eventually start like bringing in more Eternals to kind of create the team.
Yeah.
So it ends up being Icarus and Sprite, Cersei, Athena, Kingo. He's actually an Eternal who was really good at like martial arts and stuff like that. Kumail Nanjiani plays him in the movie.
Yep.
And he's an Eternal with like really good skills, but over time he just becomes an actor. And so everything he just kind of talks about is in relation to acting.
Yeah, they said in the movie, his character ends up being like this huge like Bollywood actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's kind of known as like the ninja in the book, but he's only really played like a samurai. And so yeah, we find out that it's Thanos just going through, and he's using these portals to take out like key points in like the Eternal like hierarchy. And so he gets out taking out the machine. Well, he doesn't really take it out, but he kills someone, and then his helper takes out the machine. But he goes to other points that are essential to like reproducing the bodies or teleportation to take those out. And the machine that actually powers everything that the Eternals use, their computer, it actually affects the weather system of the planet. So while all these things are going down for the Eternals and they're dying or being picked off, it's actually affecting weather. Like there's giant hail falling from the sky, lightning, thunderstorms, everything happening, chaos.
That's Thanos for you.
And so we find out that Thanos is doing all this, and then there's not really much else going on in the story. It's really just finding out who's dying, who's helping him, and and then that's pretty much it. That's where it stops.
So there's more issues to go?
Yeah, there's 5 on the app. I think the 6th one comes out probably next month.
Okay.
But so far, I think there's only, I don't know how many there are actually in publication, like real time.
Okay.
But for those that don't know, Thanos is actually part Eternal, and he's actually a deviant.
Him and Athena are cousins.
Yeah. So what happened was essentially the Eternals were put on Earth, and some of them didn't like the way that things were being, run. So they decided to leave, and I think they went to Saturn or something, or one of the planets in the solar system. They went there, and one of their colonies was taken over and everybody killed except for one person. And that person ended up being Thanos' mom, who is an Eternal, but she met a Deviant and think they had a baby, which ended up being Thanos.
That's why he's purple.
Yeah, so there's like some sort of thing that happened.
Okay. Yeah, because his, we'll get into it more next week when we start the Thanos War. But his dad just looks like a regular, I don't know. Maybe it's not.
Maybe he's not a Deviant. Maybe he's just I think it's an Eternal, but a different type of Eternal. So like he has the blood in him, but it's just he had a mutation when he was born, so that's why he's purple. No one else looks like him.
No, because his dad, at least in the comics, his dad is like some white looking guy.
Yeah, and his
so
brother.
His brother.
Yeah, and so like he's the only one that looks like that.
Yeah.
But the Eternals are also so. Yeah, when they didn't like leaving on Earth, they moved to one of the other planets. When things weren't going good on that planet, they decided to come back to Earth. But that ship got intercepted by some Kree, and then the Kree took them and started experimenting on those Eternals. And so that's what gave us the Inhumans as well, too.
Jeez.
So
see,
far,
and that's the thing is like there's such a big chunk of like Marvel history, or like they're such a big piece of like what's caused so many things in the comics, and literally nobody knows anything about them. Not nobody, but barely anybody knows anything about them.
The Celestials are responsible for mutants, like the X-Men. The whole race of mutants are directly impacted by the Celestials experimenting on humans.
See?
And then the Eternals are, created by the Celestials, and the Celestials had a part in the Inhumans, and it's just this whole, like you said, it's this whole like benefactor that no one knows about or like pays attention to, but it has like a huge impact on everything.
Like some weird like silent investors.
Yeah,
that just never get mentioned on anything.
But yeah, this book. I mean, it's not the worst thing, I guess, because it's still going. It's like it's kind of picking up.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Icarus just seems, because he's so straightforward and like this like just angry like muscle. He's kind of just boring to read.
Yeah.
Sprite's kind of like the more fun person because it is just an adult acting like a kid.
Yeah, I'm interested to see her more in the movie.
Yeah,
because I didn't know that that's what was going on. It's a basically an adult acting like a child.
Yeah, and then Cersei's in it. In this, she's kind of like she likes living with the humans, so eternal affairs and all that. Like she cares, but like they're boring to her. She likes living with
even
the humans.
in the one that I read, she was just like in her apartment, just like chilling up, like watching a movie or something.
Yeah, and so like she's gonna be more like that. I think I read that she's like a tier 5 like matter manipulator, so she can literally turn a couch into like a whale. Like she has power to just change whatever she wants to change into whatever she wants to change.
Yeah.
Druid has mind control powers, so throughout history he's just been in positions to kind of just mess with humans and kind of see what he can do.
Yeah.
So he's worked for the KGB. He's been friends with like Genghis Khan, and there's actually a part in this that I liked where it was a flashback between Kingo and Druid, and Druid was with Genghis Khan's son, and Kingo found him, and he had to walk through like this village that had just been like demolished and everybody killed, bodies just lined up and everything.
Yeah.
And Kingo found Druid and was like, "Were you responsible for this? And like, I know what you can do." And he's just like, "No, I didn't do anything. I'm just here. Like, these are my friends." He was like, "We warned these people what would happen if they didn't like follow in line."
Yeah.
And they didn't listen, so that's what happened. And so Kingo was going to, at night, he snuck into the camp of the leader and was going to kill him, but just decided not to. But literally that same night, the leader had a heart attack. And so because he had a heart attack, they had to pull back the army and send them back to where they were to find a new leader and then send everybody back out. But if you would have killed the leader, it would have caused a big commotion where they would have went and pillaged everything.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like he's not doing anything. He's manipulating people, but he's not really doing too much. Like maybe the manipulation and the worst thing can come from outside. Maybe he's not there to do the worst. He's just there to kind of spark the fire a little bit.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that.
I got to check that one out.
The only thing I will say about this is the art. It's very distracting.
Damn it.
Because the artist, he makes the eyes very like dead, but still have emotion somehow. So they're always super big. Like the eyes are just like always wide, and like they're weird faces that they get stuck on.
Sometimes that can take me out of a story, like bad artwork.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, I can't read this.
Yeah.
Like there's been a lot of stories, especially like when I first started getting into it, like 2013, 2012. Those are like a lot of stuff with like bad art. There was like a Thunderbolts one that I was reading.
Exactly. I stopped reading that one because that one was just like terrible.
It was horrible. I got like a couple issues
because the cover makes it look like it's going to be badass.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up. I didn't even look inside of it. I just saw the cover. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna check this one out." And it was like like the run had just started.
Yeah.
I was like, "All right, cool." And then I opened it up. I was like, "Oh shit."
Yeah, I literally stopped reading after the first issue. I was like, I can't do this.
Nah, I hated that one. I wonder what happened in it. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like we could quite possibly, with both of these stories, this could be the movie. I don't know if that's what's going on, and I don't. Obviously, Thanos isn't going to show up.
Yeah, based on the trailers, I'm assuming it has something to do. So the trailer says, I think it takes place right after Endgame. Mm-hmm. So it says,
I think it's like 2 weeks or something.
Yeah, like 2 weeks ago, all these people were brought back, and like all that immense energy was pretty much like a beacon for the Celestials to be like, okay, we need to go back to Earth to judge, because that's what they do. They judge planets. So we need to go back there and judge whether or not this planet is worthy enough to continue on, or that we need to take care of it. And I read that it takes place, there's 2 timelines. So it takes place in the past and the present.
Oh, okay.
So I think we'll see them in the past and, how they operate and this and that together. But then in the future, we see them kind of come back together and how they're going to try to fix what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Because Ajax is in it. And like you said, is the only one who can talk to the Celestials. So something's going to happen to where they have to unite and somehow prevent this.
Because the Celestial that was in mine, Arishem, he's going to be in the movie too.
Yeah.
And if he came down and guarded that thing for 50 years, who knows what he's going to come down and protect this time.
Yeah, if you guys want to see what a Celestial looks like, Guardians of the Galaxy, the movie, the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Nowhere, the place that they go, the giant head, that's a Celestial.
Yeah.
When they go to the Collector's office and he shows them how the Power Stone works, that's a Celestial. So they're really just these big space things in these giant suits.
But yeah, I think we might actually help people with this one.
Hopefully.
Like I said, I think my story definitely gave a good basis for all of it. Yours, I think people should read it.
Yeah, definitely read it. There's not a lot going on, but there's just a lot of history involved. Because every few pages is like talking about some population of Eternal somewhere else, or like how it connects, or some war that happened, and it's just a whole lot. Like, even if I put notes into it, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I gotta check that one out. But I think both of ours are gonna help with this movie better than the Shang-Chi one.
Yeah,
that's it. I think we've run past our time this week. And if you guys don't remember, like we said last week, we're not gonna be picking teams.
Nope.
We're gonna hold off on that for a bit. So yeah, thanks for listening. Hopefully this does help somebody out when the movie comes around. Because, like I said, I didn't know anything about them before I started really reading this stuff. Because they just weren't on my radar for anything.
Yeah.
They're never talked about. Like, they're not really even a part of anybody else's stories. Yeah, hopefully we helped. It helped me. I'm definitely going to go read the story that you read. So.
And I'm going to pretend I read yours.
Yeah. just go to the wiki page. You'll get the gist of it there. But they're mostly just going to talk about the fact that it got canceled. And that was Jack Kirby's first one back. So I think that's what makes me feel worse about it. It was like, oh, you guys brought him back and then canceled this stuff? All right, guys. There's a dog on the other side of the door here that wants to get into the studio to record his. So we're going to take off. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.
We'll be back next week with the Thanos War.
Ooh.
Unlike when I told you guys that 2 weeks ago. But next week, the Thanos War will be here. The first part of the Thanos War. Be there or be square. Goodbye.
Bye.